welcome to our latest live stream. I'm here with Veronica, who's our product director at Dexibit. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
And on today's live, we're talking all about workations. Have I got the word right? Veronica is an expert in workations. And I have to embarrassingly admit, I have traveled the world for work and I've only once ever taken a holiday with it, which seems like a missed opportunity. But you're the queen of going on holiday, managing to keep it all together, and at the same time working from overseas.
Yes, that's something that I started doing, I think last year, Angie, once the COVID rules broke down and then we were able to travel again. So luckily, Dexibit offered us the opportunity to go abroad and work from different countries remotely while still being able to travel and see the world.
I'm very jealous. And you just got back from your latest trip to Japan.
That's right. I just spent 5 magical weeks in Japan.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And the photos were just glorious. I have to live vicariously through Veronica's Instagram. So you've done Japan and you also did Australia last year, was it? This year?
Yeah, I actually done Australia 3 times in the past year.
Goodness.
Yeah, so it was Gold Coast for 5 weeks. And that was actually an amazing opportunity where I could help my sister with her nephew. And then I worked from Bondi Beach for 2 weeks and then from Sydney for a week.
Oh, very cool. And what's the benefit of working abroad versus just taking a straight out vacation?
I think you just get to experience the country in a different way. You get to stay there longer and you're not a tourist anymore. You're actually just embracing the life of a normal resident. And you don't get that when you're a tourist. Sometimes when you're traveling, well, for me, it's always packed. You're always doing something every single day. You have a big fear of FOMO, missing out. And so you get exhausted. But being able to work, sit down in front of my computer for 8 hours, and then I have the energy and time to actually go out and explore and do weekend trips or, take a Friday off and then have a 3-day vacation. So I think that's a really big benefit.
Kind of ironic, isn't it, that it's actually more restful in some ways to work on your vacation?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. And how long do you go for? Like, what proportion of this is work on the trip versus play?
I think for me, it just depends what I can afford, really, being away from home and having to pay those bills. But ultimately, I would take maybe like a week or 2 weeks off and just, travel the country. And then sneak in few, Fridays or like Mondays off to make it a 3-day weekend.
Go to Universal Studios in Japan.
That's right. I really wanted to go to Harry Potter. Yeah.
All of the things. And how much time zone overlap? Because I think that's always the difficulty when you are in different countries, regardless of if it's work or workations. How much of that overlap do you work with New Zealand hours?
So for me personally, I try to have at least 80% to 90% overlap. And that's just due to the nature of the work that we do. In my role, it's very collaborative. So being part of the team, being there to answer questions, attend meetings, provide that context and hear what's happening is important. We did trial with a few other team members being in the Europe time zone, and we found that actually quite difficult. So if you don't have enough overlap, you really are missing out on that communication. So async wasn't as effective for us. So I found that, for me, having that like 80% overlap is really good. And what works really well is here we have pretty flexible hours anyway. We start anywhere from 7 a.m. to 9, 10. And then, if people want to go pick up their kids, they leave at 3. So as long as I'm starting within a normal range in New Zealand, then I'm able to communicate with the team effectively.
Yeah, we have another member of our team who is going away for a couple of months in Europe, but they're on the customer team side. So their overlap is with customers who are predominantly in North America. So they actually get more overlap during our winter than we do. So it kind of works out in that favor. But on a product team, it's more the team here that you're trying to connect with, right?
That's right, yeah. So New Zealand time zone.
And how do you create that kind of work environment when you're traveling?
I'm quite particular and I like my creature comforts. So I absolutely take my laptop riser and I need a very quiet space when I'm working. I can't do busy cafes. So I must have a nice accommodation where it's just me by myself in a room or in an office. So I make sure I bring my mouse, I bring my keyboard, everything. Ergonomics, I must have a nice chair. It must be a proper table.
Wow.
So I have a lot of requirements to make sure that I'm very comfortable when I'm working.
So you're not perched on the side of a mountain?
No, that is not me, unfortunately. I'm sure some people would be okay with that, but I get distracted, so I just need a work environment where I'm really concentrating.
I must admit, I am terrible for like perching, and even when I'm just working from home, I never have a proper setup, and then I pay the price on my back the next day. And it's hard doing certain work, particularly in product when you're sort of looking in quite detailed things, a lot of screen time.
Yeah. Or a lot of mouse time. You just want to be comfortable so that your right hand doesn't go numb.
That's so true. And what about on the team side or the employer side? So I know it's become a real thing for us that since COVID, the team have been working more flexible hours, often more remote time. We've got a few members of the team who are wholly remote now. So traveling and working and workations have become like a normal part of our day-to-day and how we work together as a team. But what do you think are some of the misconceptions people have out there if they are employers thinking about introducing something like this, or team members wanting to raise it or discuss it?
I think it comes down to the old age question: do you trust your staff members to do the work without having them in the office, without having to have a visual eye on them? So I think it's a mindset in terms of the culture that you have as a company. Do you trust your people to do the work without them having to be in the office? And I think that ultimately also comes down to engagement. So if your staff and employees are engaged with the mission, with the work that they're doing, and they actually love coming to work and doing the work, then you probably trust them, and you know that they will be honest and do the work. Whether if maybe in some companies the culture is not that great, so maybe people are not as engaged, how much effort are they putting into working versus not? Maybe that would be the fear.
It's a really tough one. I think for us, selfishly, in the visitor attractions vertical, every time someone goes on vacation, I get really excited because it's a great moment of inspiration for us as a product, because naturally you go out to the art galleries and the museums and the aquariums and the zoos and the parks and theme parks, and you have that visitor experience, and there is always those little tiny bits of value that you bring back to the team and to the product from having that. So doing that with a work mindset as part of a workation rather than being wholly switched off is actually, I think, an advantage in many ways.
Absolutely. I don't think I can go to any visitor attraction now without seeing, how they count. Yeah, I'm looking up to see how they're counting people, and then I'm still seeing, a lot of clickers in a lot of these art galleries, or even doing, the tours that are paid for or free. I often ask them, I'm like, so what's the visitation like? And then they start talking about their data or the lack of data. So it's just very engaging to hear what different venues are doing and where they are in their data journey.
Yeah, we try to get out as a team once a quarter or so, and we go to a different visitor attraction around town with the whole team. We just went on Friday night to Archie Brothers, which is like a family entertainment centre, and did the temp and bowling and all the little games and cocktails, of course. But that's all designed really to give us that inspiration and reconnection with the sector. And sometimes I think even if you're doing customer site visits, you can kind of miss that because you're so busy looking at the ceiling and talking to the staff that you don't experience the attraction as a visitor. And being on vacation and doing these things is all part and parcel of that.
Absolutely. And I think that visitor experience that everybody cares about, you are part of that. And so having that perspective helps you understand how to collect data, or how you as a visitor will react, and where would you go to give feedback if you wanted to, and how you experience these attractions.
And for other software or other products out there that have an international user base, it might not be visitor attractions that necessarily your team members are out there experiencing it, but that act of going offshore, it gives you that global mindset where you're thinking about weather is Fahrenheit versus Celsius, or different currencies, or different terminology that people use for like public holidays or federal holidays or bank holidays, depending on the world where you are. And I think sort of any kind of exposure that your team can have to traveling and to being abroad, it helps that product mindset and that global mindset that product teams need.
Absolutely. And I think New Zealand is quite small. So when you go to some of these global attractions, you're really seeing things on a larger scale. So then you understand the problems are so much bigger, or even just understanding some of the ticketing. I went to Universal, and then trying to buy a ticket. That was actually a really complicated experience for me. And I was struggling to understand what I needed to buy. And that was such a profound experience.
Yeah, sort of understanding the dynamic pricing or bundling and fast passes, add-ons and things.
All these options and the complications, then how do you report on that?
Yeah, so cool. And what are some of the more difficult things when it comes to living, working abroad? How do you overcome those?
I think really understanding how you work best, whether it's a quiet environment or maybe you do want to work in a cafe, just knowing yourself, what works for you, what keeps you motivated, and what you need to get your work done. But some of the other aspects for me, not having my family around, not having my friends around can get a little bit lonely, especially if there's a language barrier in the country where you don't speak the language. So for me, I try to join clubs and things that I would usually be doing in New Zealand. For example, when I was in Bondi Beach, I joined a yoga studio, and so I made friends through that. While in Japan, I joined a few salsa dancing classes and bachata classes, and then I made friends through that. So it's just getting in and amongst, these everyday things that you'd be doing at home and having that little community. I think that helps.
Is such a great community builder, isn't it? Doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can tap into that.
Yeah, everybody's dancing.
Very cool. And lastly, a couple of quick fire questions. Favorite thing to do in Japan? What was it?
Oh, eat. Oh my goodness. I ate so much. I actually put on weight and then I had to, settle down on my eating. I was eating everything.
Surprisingly cheap as well.
Very cheap, and also lots of healthy things at a reasonable price.
Wow.
Not that I was eating healthy things. 3 ice creams a day sometimes.
Oh, nice. That's a good effort. And something that you wouldn't do without in your suitcase?
In my suitcase for work or in general?
In general.
In general. Power bank.
That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely power bank. I forgot mine, and the amount of times they ran out, and just had to either find a cafe or just walk up to randoms and be like, excuse me, I see you have a power bank. Can I just charge my phone?
It's always a good one, isn't it?
Power bank.
Mine is a blackout sleep mask because I can't sleep on a plane without one. And then I find it helps with the jet lag a little bit if you can kind of get that blackout going. And your next trip that you've got planned?
Oh, I have 3 in my mind, so I don't know. Either Western Australia next year or maybe in Japan again. Could be on the cards, or Rarotonga. Just somewhere warm where I can escape some of the New Zealand winter.
I've been rewatching the White Lotus Hawaii edition and dreaming of an island holiday. That'd be me. Well, thanks very much for joining us. We are hiring at the moment, so go to careers.dexibit.com. You'll find some interesting engineering roles on that. We're about to open up in Success as well. So even if there's something that's not on there that you want to apply for, do send us your CV or get in touch. Feel free to reach out to any of the team to contact us. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Dexibit is a great place to work, nice empowered team, very inspirational, curious product team, fantastic customers, a very cool industry to work in, and of course, flexible work conditions like being able to work abroad. So I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.